Hey everyone. How you doing on today? Let's talk about this because there's a lot of times there's situations where books are brought into the school, and sometimes parents don't always agree with what their children are being taught in the school system, or certain books that are being presented. And some parents get upset by this. Now, this educator, his name is Toby Price. He's a former assistant principal at Gary Road Elementary School in Hinds County, Mississippi. And he's had to hire an attorney and a lawyer, and he plans to fight his termination. Now, what he in this book is called I Need a New Butt. He read this book on Zoom. He was covering because the principal didn't show up. So he picked the book and he started reading this book. Now, the author of the book is Dawn Macmillan, and she is a writer of fiction and nonfiction for children books. And so she wrote the book, and so she lives along the rocky shore of the Thames coast, and many of her books have a focus on animals and evoke New Zealand's natural environment. He decided to read this book to these children in school, and it does have some terms in there, uh, in this book, like fart, the word fart. We try to be uh, grammatically correct and everything. And so the book does have some of those terms in there, and he was reading this book actually to a group of second graders. And so it says that, the word butt, B-U-T-T, and fart. And obviously they did not like that, the school. And so let me get into this story with you. He's actually receiving support for his attorney fees on his fundraising page. He has a GoFundMe. This story is coming from New York Times, thanking Maria Kramer and Isabella Grulon Paz for this story. But anyway, he's a former Mississippi assistant principal. He set up a GoFundMe account to help raise money for attorney fees after he says he was fired for reading the book I Need a New Butt to a group of second graders. He was recently fired, and so it's a funny, silly book, and it's a book that kids love. And he says, I'm just looking for some help to pay bills while I look for another job. So he's looking for another job actively, is what he says. And he has two kids with autism and another with BPD. Okay. And he says, thank you for helping. We have found an attorney and need help with the fee. So Price, who worked as an assistant principal at Gary Road Elementary School in Byram, said he hadn't planned to read to the second graders, but ended up reading the book when the principal did not show up to the class as was planned. So the principal was supposed to show up to this class to read and entertain the second graders, and he didn't do it. So the assistant principal was there to fill in, and he chose a book to read to the class. And he said he texted his boss, who told him to go ahead and read to the children. Price said he grabbed one of his favorite books, I Need a New Butt, a book that he had read before at a previous school where he had worked. Price said he didn't think twice about reading the book to the students. Now Price is raising money for attorney fees after he said he was fired for showing poor professional judgment by reading the book that contains words like butt and fart. And what's interesting is that a lot of times those are words, especially butt and fart, were used, have been used in households and are still being used to this day. Now, when I was growing up, we could not use the word butt and fart. We could not use that. We had to say break wind and behind when I was growing up. There was just certain words that we could not use in our household, and maybe that's what this, they're looking at as far as terminating him. But you would be surprised how many people, even adults, use these two words to this day currently in their household. They do. And these two words have been around for years, because even when I was growing up, we could not use those words. My mom really wanted us to speak well and use correct grammar. And so we were not able to use certain words. It's like we were not able to say stupid in our household, and so a whole bunch of other words we could not use, or even say. And we got in trouble for using those words if it came out of our mouth. So there are a lot of households that do use those words, and they really do to this day. I've heard people saying I could be standing somewhere and somebody would say, "Ooh, you know, F word," and I'm like, ugh, because we were not able to do it. But you never know what's being taught in the household with these children. So again, he was terminated. And so the GoFundMe had raised more than $12,000. He's hired an attorney and plans to appeal his termination at a hearing on March 21st. So good luck to this assistant principal. I don't know if he should have been fired, even though he's an assistant principal. They said he should have used better judgment. But if it's a silly book, it's nonfiction, excuse me, it's a fictional book, it's a silly book. Um, Maybe they should have just disciplined him and told him that's not an appropriate book, apologize to the children, and move forward. But to terminate him, I'm not sure of what they expect of the higher standards, because there are standards, but we also look at, sometimes are we going too far? And in this case, the principal didn't even show up to the class. So, really, principal, and then he's being terminated for reading a book. Now, the only two words that they did provide, and I haven't read this book. Matter of fact, this is the first time that I heard about the book. And I had to look it up to see who the author was and what the author is coming from. And she writes a lot of silly books, it seems, or books that are funny, and things like that. But you know what? Honestly, there's a lot of households that use those two exact words that some households, like my household growing up, we couldn't use that word. And I told my son, I didn't use it in my own household, raising my own child. So all I'm saying is that did the principal, the school system go too far when they terminated him? Do you feel that he should be terminated? Do you think he should be given his job back when he goes to the hearing on March 21st? Should they restore his position, and should they just discipline him? Should they talk to him and just tell him, you should have used better judgment? What do you think should happen with this educator? Also, uh, looking back, how many books are in the school system that should have been pulled a long time ago? And then we also need to look at, what are they teaching and what are they refusing to teach that children really need to learn? And these were second graders. And so I wonder how many second graders can tell you if those words are being used in their household. If they went to a school meeting and parents showed up, I guarantee you, if they're not afraid to tell the truth, the parents, if they asked and did a survey, or even just did a survey and people turned it in, how many of you use the word but and fart in your household? And you'd probably be surprised that a lot of people are using those words in their household. And so if you wasn't raised to use those words, like I wasn't, but there are a lot of families that do use those words. They don't, that's the words they use. And a lot of husbands use those words. And even though as a woman, you may not use those words, some women, and some women do, but there are a lot of men that use those words. They do. And children learn that kind of stuff. So again, I wonder how many will raise their hand or fill out a survey and be honest with that survey on these words. Uh, you know, Sometimes I think things go too far. But again, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about this educator being terminated, and you know, um, because of the book that he chose to read to these second graders.